It's really finding their objection and just reassuring them, I think, to win that new stuff, even without showing them pretty pictures.
Hey Growth Detect, welcome back. I am your host, Tyler Sumala, and we are continuing to dive into the top 10 questions that I get from architecture firm owners most often. And by the way, if you found any value in this podcast, please take a moment to subscribe and leave a review. They mean so much to me because it helps other architects get the help that they need. And so today I've actually invited my friend Lance Cayko to chat about how to win work without a big portfolio. And he shares how they have branched into multiple markets over the last 15 years without relying on portfolio pieces, because it turns out portfolios may not be as important as we think. And before we jump in, a huge thanks to our friends at the American Institute of Steel Construction for sponsoring Season 4 of the Growth Tech Podcast. Here is a fun fact for you. Did you know all domestically produced steel beams and columns are 100% recyclable and contain, on average, 92% recycled content? You can learn more about sustainable steel at aisc.org/sustainable. That is aisc.org/sustainable. Check it out, and let's go ahead and jump in. Lance, hey, so excited to have you here. In so many of the conversations that I'm having with architects, this common topic keeps on coming up, right? And so they're saying something along the lines of, hey, either I just started my firm, right? Or I've had my firm for a while, and there's this different market, this upper market, this alternate market, this diversified market that I want to go after, but I don't have any work in my portfolio to like show that I can do it. So first, like I need to, do a case study project or something to show that I can do it for free. And then I can start winning work. But I'm curious, with your experience, what your initial reaction to that is.
I felt like this has been our through line challenge as starting the firm just like we did, where we didn't have a portfolio. Because if people always ask us, where does our name come from? F9 Productions. And we go, we finally figured it out. I mean, it's like, you can't figure it out. You don't have all the principles and the answers and everything right away. It's a big through line. When you're a startup and you get you're going through the startup phase. And even now, I feel like we're in a post-secondary startup phase. And the answer is, I go, oh, well, F9 was the hotkey on the keyboard for 3ds Max. That's what Alex and I were using to render at the beginning in 2008, 2009, 2010, in our very, very early years, to render our architectural renderings. And I go, all we had was F9 Productions. Like, we didn't have any built work. So we had to do something that is above and beyond, and that is model it like it's built. And that's a principle now. That's actually one of our 9 principles. But by the way, like, we didn't come up with until 10 years into the business. I mean, honestly, I just had this discussion with a friend who in California, who's now an entrepreneur himself, totally not an architect, but he's reached out to me for business advice like that. And I wanted to reassure him. I go, because he goes, I feel like this inner urge to write down these principles. And I go, oh yeah, of course you do, because you've ran through the gamut. And it's okay. And he goes, isn't it weird that I didn't have them in the beginning? I go, no. Like, I think there's this myth that people haven't all figured out from the beginning. So back to kind of where you started with the question is, like, that's a challenge that we have, and we are still finding that we have. Some folks really want to niche down, and I respect that totally. Is like, oh, I'm going to only do single family residential. I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket. I'm going to hone in on that deliverable. I'm going to do single family remodels and additions and brand new houses. And I'm going to get really, really good at that one thing and niche down, and then have maybe a diversity of clients like that. And that's how I'm spreading out things. And if one of those things goes away, then one of those client types goes away. Maybe I'm only doing remodels, and I won't go bankrupt and everything. But we really have embraced almost every typology that has come into our firm that we're allowed to go after just by virtue of it happening, right? So we did start out that way, where we were just like, all right, we're going to focus on houses. That's the firm I came from. Alex has always wanted to do houses. He did it for in his portfolio and everything. But multifamily then was the first one that came out, and it was like, well, we don't have a portfolio of this. How do we tackle that? And I think what you're doing is you're always seeking to understand when you get presented with that new typology, or you're trying to go after it, is like, what are the objections a potential client might have for not hiring me? I learned this from my wife, who's a realtor. the realtors are really good. They go through all kinds of training about finding objections. We can learn
so much from other industries, but yeah.
Oh my God, they get so jealous of realtors. Yeah. I was one of them.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you're getting 3% for just showing a house,
yeah.
You know, and I'm going like, I'm only getting 3 or 5% for designing,
a lot of work, yeah,
making the sexy thing happen.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, but they're really good at selling. Like, do you understand like why it's an easier proposition for them to get to that money? And it's because of the objections. So what you got to figure out is like, I'll give it the one example I'll focus in on is we got presented with a duplex in like 2010. We'd never done a duplex. We'd done a single family house. But the objection was from the owner was, well, you don't have experience with this. Like, how could I trust you? This is a lot of money. He was also sort of to his, you know, pick on him a little bit. First time, second time developer. He'd been transitioning into bigger projects. And his thing was like, you don't have the experience. And I'll never forget this. Alex was so impressed by this tirade. I kind of love when I get an owner that pushes my buttons a little bit and makes me a little angry. It's like a superpower, but I don't get too angry. But they push me, and then I go, and then I'm like the salesman from Wolf of Wall Street, and I will just puff up, but based on facts about who I am, what we are, how we do it, and everything. And my sales pitch to him was, it was a go, yep, you're right, we haven't designed one, but I've had a hammer in my hand since I was 13. And at that point, I think I was 26. And I go, that's 13 years of hands-on experience in the field. I go, I challenge you to find another architect who can actually pick up a hammer and understand how these buildings go together. And I go, that's us. I want to reassure you that because we model it like it's built, I think that's where the phrase came from, that we're actually already virtually building your building. And you aren't going to see change orders, at least very minimal ones, because we will have virtually tested and built the whole thing. And that's all he wanted to hear. He just wanted to hear that we would do the due diligence on that project, which is the through line for all of the new typologies that we've ever done. A car dealership, we recently did one. I always just reinsure folks if they say, well, have you done this before? Have you? And I say confidently, no, but we will go through the due diligence to make sure that we are serving you and your project properly. We're still going to go through the same channels. We're going to go check out what we got to do for the permitting. We're going to go through a thorough code analysis. We're going to check out the typology. We're well versed, all of those sort of things. It's really finding their objection and just reassuring them, I think, to win that new stuff, even without showing them pretty pictures.
I got really excited just now by everything that you were saying, because there's so many different avenues to pursue by what you're saying. But I think you're exactly right, because essentially what you're doing in that moment is you're saying, you know, the market, no, I haven't done that type of project, but I've solved these problems over and over and over again. And it doesn't matter what market I'm solving those problems for, because the problems are still the same and the process to overcome them is still the same. And that's really like, that's ultimately what it comes down to, is like, yeah, is addressing what that back end, you know, objection concern is on their end, and making sure that they understand that you're going to help them do that regardless of whether or not you've done that type of project before. But that's why I was really excited to bring you on. Before we jumped on, I was telling you about how when I started my studio years ago, I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. And I was texting with a friend that had started a firm, young as well. And he's grown it, and that thing is crushing now. But like, I was like, what do I do? Like, how do I do this? And he had sent me a link to your podcast, and he had literally said, start from episode 1. So I jumped on to Inside the Firm. I started with episode 1, and it was so refreshing for me. Because it really was like the beginning, like it was near the beginning of you and Alex starting the firm and talking through literally everything that was happening in your business and the things that you were thinking about, all the way from like setting up the LLC to like, you know, client communication and these different things. And so it was so refreshing to me. And so when I saw this being one of the most common questions, you know, how do I win work without a big portfolio? You immediately came to mind, because even though you have a big portfolio now, you started with nothing.
Yes.
right? You and Alex started with nothing. And like you said, you've kind of expanded in these different areas so many different times, so you really have experience on it. But that's my introduction to like you in terms of what you and Alex have done and my exposure to you. But like, how would you describe what you guys are doing?
Yeah. It's now we're doing much more actually. So we've vertically integrated completely, where F9 is our architecture firm, F12 Productions is our real estate development firm, and F14 is our construction firm. So now we have even more. It's like, well, we've never done a development. How do you do a development? How are we going to convince banks or lenders to give us $3 million to build the whole thing? How are we going to convince the city to give me a Class B contractor's license, which would allow us to do this, right? How do we show the qualifications? It's real, again, understanding the objections, right? And then in the contracting side, there's typologies that we're doing 4 restaurants right now. We've designed and we're building in the middle right now 4 restaurants. And I had a superintendent, I let him go a couple months ago. Now it's just Al and I GCing everything with the support of our architecture staff. But one of his big things is he could not get over was he was like, well, I've never done a restaurant before. And it would just freak him out. And I'm like, it's not as scary as you think. Because in the end, one of the things that I want every entrepreneur, architect that's listening today to remember is we have this idea. And it's okay that we have this idea. This is why we're visionaries, right? This is why architects are really beautiful creatures and humans that are humanists and go above and beyond and want to create beautiful functional spaces that uplift everybody's spirit. Is we think we got to do it all. You don't have to do it all. It's okay to say, I don't know. And it took me like 10 years to get really comfortable personally, professionally, as a man, to go, I don't know, with a smile, but I'll figure it out. I will find the objections. I will find the problems. I will go through the due diligence for that. And I will rely on and lean on other professionals who have done it better and more than me. And so, for example, with the restaurants, I am heavily leaning on my very good friend. Now, he's a very good friend and ally and partner in terms of just hiring him as my HVAC contractor, my plumbing contractor. Travis has done over 100 restaurants. He loves doing them. And thank God I have him to help me through the process and learning it. And it's a give and take, right? Because he's happy to do it because he knows he's smart. He's a very smart businessman. He's also a serial entrepreneur because he owns multiple businesses. He knows that, like, if I help Lance do these and they're successful, we're just going to multiply after that. Like, then all of a sudden, I'm not just helping him build these very high-end custom residential houses and design them, build them, and then also do the multifamily stuff that we do because we also build that. And then he's like, this is going to be a whole another level. We're all going to level up with it. So yeah, it's again, that's a through line. I mean, even then back to the development, it's like, well, I had to go seek out like Jonathan Segal, very famous architect in San Diego, a fellow in the AIA, and like go listen to him, pick his brain, go find other people on other podcasts. And then hopefully, like you said, then you found us. It's this whole get out of the silo that we used to be in, I think 20, 30 years ago as architects. And now all of a sudden people are more comfortable and they have sort of I'm a Genesis 1:28 guy, like be fruitful and multiply. And it just happens.
That reminds me of, I was listening to a podcast once I think it was with Malcolm Gladwell was on it. And he was talking about how his father would have a conversation with absolutely anyone at any point and would just continue asking questions and questions and more questions. And how one time someone had asked about, like, don't you feel like almost like incompetent? Like, don't you feel incompetent with like the amount of questions that you're asking or something like that? And he had responded with something along the lines of like, I have no fear. I don't care about if people are worried about that because I'm really comfortable in my own skin and what I know. Like I have, like he was an MIT, like he was an MIT trained like engineer, had like a PhD or something, and maybe even taught at MIT. I don't remember, something along those lines. But he's like, I have nothing left to prove on my end, and I only have things to learn. And so the only way I'm going to learn is if I continue to ask questions and assume that everyone around me knows something that I don't. Right. And so even at that level of like intelligence, this man understood, like, there's still like, there's things that I don't know, and that's okay. Like what, like, why does it matter? Like no one knows everything. Like you're going to have to learn these things from other people, and you're going to have to bring them in for necessary things, just like they're going to have to bring you in for necessary things to like advance their life and their career and get better. And so it's all like, it's a shared commitment with the right people. It's a shared commitment with the right people so that you're always growing. So I can tell you one common thing that comes up when these conversations, when this topic is brought up in my calls, and that's that, you know, it's this myth that clients need to literally see the example before they can commit to hiring you, right? So that's where they'll say something like, so I'm going to like do a pretend, you know, case study project for this just so that I can have it on my website and have something to show that like I can do something like that. I think that's one really common myth and mistake with this idea that you need a big portfolio before you can win the work. And that's because of what we were talking about before. Like it's not about them seeing, we think we need to do that because that's how we've been trained visually, like all together. But like clients don't know that. Like they don't understand that concept either. But I'm wondering what other either challenges you've experienced or kind of common myths you see along this line of like needing the portfolio before you can win the work.
Well, you just nailed it. Exactly. It's exactly that. I just want to reemphasize that is we have these made up scenarios in our head, and it's you have to get out of your comfort zone and go, maybe not. What can it hurt to try it? Right? Like what is ultimately the loss here? Am I in a space that will allow me to fail? It's like getting comfortable with failure and going, fine, let's say you got presented with 3 multifamily projects that you've never done, just simple ones, duplexes, triplex. You've never done them, but you want to do them because you've built on a base like we did too, where it's like, yeah, it's a logical conclusion, like where I'm progression. It's a logical progression. I'm going to do a house.
Don't make it a conclusion yet.
Then I'm going to do 3 of them. Then I'm a triplex, and then I'm going to maybe do an apartment building, and you just keep building on top of it and everything. It's, so dispelling that myth in your mind, you don't know what they really want to see. It's digging deeper again. However it works for you. I just think you got to take like an objection course. I'm so serious. I took it because I have a wife who is a realtor. I role play with her about it. It's fascinating to do it as an architect. And where you go, you have to come up with your own methodology is what I'm getting at of. How do you find their objection? How do you really dig deep? Because you don't know, like what we're doing, what you described, Tyler, is we're taking a guess at their objection. We actually don't know their objection to why they wouldn't hire you. So you have to figure out what their objection is. You have to come up with a line of questions or way of doing it when you're in those initial discussions with them of figuring it out. And I'm not sure, like some people just do the automated questionnaires. That's okay. A lot of people actually hate them at this point.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Not okay.
yeah.
I would say that's not okay. Do not do that.
Exactly. This is a humanist profession.
Yeah, they're making an emotional decision. If you're trying to put your qualification process through a form, it's not going to work.
Even on the commercial side, I argue now it's emotional because we got asked when we only did residential, and maybe the first 5 years it was like that. We probably at 99% was residential. Now we're multifaceted. Some of my colleagues would ask, they'd be like, "What's that like?" I heard it's just like, "Oh my God, you got to deal with the husband and the wife, or the husband, whatever." And I was like, I bought into it. Like, oh yeah, sure. Yeah, it's emotional. And then we started doing a lot of commercial work in both ways, like as the builder and the architect. Yeah. And I got to tell you, like, it's a different emotion, actually. It's a totally different emotion. It's a lot more tied to money and timeline and their butts being on the line because they're taking a bigger risk than a high-end residential client. It's a different kind of risk, and understanding that objection is way different than it. So that's the way I would answer it, is like, you got to seek to understand. You got to use the 7 habits of highly effective people, and one of them is seek to understand.
You know what's funny? I wouldn't even call that like objection training. That's just sales training. That's just communication training is what it is. And kind of what you're describing is actually what I would describe as like the discovery process first, like just being able to understand like what are the questions that you need to ask. And they're not the quantitative questions that we want them to be so that we can go and define the scope. And by that, I don't mean like what the questions you should not ask are how many square feet do you want the house to be? How many bedrooms and bathrooms do you want? Like that's not going to teach you anything, right? The question is, tell me about where you were when this idea hit your mind.
Love that.
Right? Tell me about what kind of experience you want this home to give you.
Yeah.
Right? Like get an actual understanding and then don't avoid the risk questions around, what's your biggest fear?
I'll give everybody a layup. Help me understand what's driving this project, and especially with families. It's because it's the easiest typology to start with, I think, is like single family. So
it is, yeah. It's repeatable, yeah.
Yep. And it's everybody's lived in a house. It's like a typology, like you can start it, you can figure it out. We are working with a lot of families now that are combining. They're recombining for economical reasons. That's where we're at in the economy. And for me to understand that right off the bat is super helpful then for my staff too, once we win the project. I really make sure I bring it back to my project architects and go, hey, you got to understand this is what's driving them to hire us and do this project. So we need to be 100% copacetic to it and empathetic to them. Even though I understand, Mr. Project Architect, that you're objecting to some of their design decisions, understand that it's your job to architect it then. Like, don't make it be crappy. If you think that, they're doing nine cars, fine. That's what they need for their family. It's America. Like, this is a free country mostly still. So you need to you need to be fair to that.
All right, growth techs, check this out. In Boulder and Atlanta, old buildings came down, but their steel beams did not go to waste. They went straight into new projects, and that is the power of US-made structural steel. So here is how it works. Instead of relying on virgin iron and blast furnaces, we actually use modern technology to melt recycled scrap in electric arc furnaces, and that produces 6 million tons of the most sustainable steel in the world every single year. And the carbon footprint keeps shrinking. It's already down 12% in the last 3 years, and as our power grid moves toward renewables, it'll keep falling. Steel is strong, it lasts for decades, and it can be reused over and over without losing quality. It is a natural fit for adaptive reuse and for sustainable design. And if you want to put it to work, then download the free sustainability toolkit from our sponsor at aisc.org/buildgreen. That is aisc.org/buildgreen. One word there at the end. Go and check it out, and we'll get back to the show. What's most important about that is exactly what you said. You have to know what the top priority is for every single client. Now, you were talking about the importance of it, like after you've already won the project. It's equally as important, if not more important, before you win the project, and specifically for those objections that you're talking about and for the negotiation process. Because if you understand and you know and you've confirmed what their top priority is, then every response to an objection or towards a negotiation has to mirror and reflect that top priority, right? And so what does that mean? Like if their top priority, like you were just saying, what would that look like, by the way, on the combining the families? Like what did they say on that?
Oh, we need to be close but separate.
We need,
right?
Yeah, okay.
What a difficult problem.
So yeah, we need to be close but separate, right? So you present the fee, as something like, whatever. You present a fee that's like $200,000 and they're starting to negotiate and they're starting to give objections now. Like, oh, that's a little bit higher than what we were thinking. Like, is there any way that you could, decrease the price there or something, right? And then you do the typical, I call it like, one way to overcome objections is AAA, right? So that's like you acknowledge what they said, you answer what they said, and then you ask a question to continue the conversation. Now, the most important part there is like the ask and the answer, but like the ask is the thing that continues the conversation and makes sure that it keeps going. But so they say something like, is there any way that fee can be a little bit lower? And then you say, I understand the hesitation. We work with a lot of families that are working to combine these things, and are kind of surprised by what the investment into getting this could be. What we've typically found is that these specific challenges come up. And so that's what's required in order for us to make sure that you all can still be within the same property here, but still have those separate spaces. How important is it to you that that's what's maintained?
Yeah.
Right? You get that, like you have to get them to answer and confirm that that, again, is the most important thing to them. Because if that's the most important thing to them, and that is how you are responding to each objection that they have, then they're only diving deeper into their own hole of like, this is what we need, right? When every time that you respond, you're making sure that you're mapping it back to whatever that priority is.
Yes, I like that you're phrasing it like through the discovery process, you're finding out their priorities and you're taking their priorities as the through line through the whole process. Like you said, from during the sales part, the negotiations, and then even, obviously in the execution, that's the obvious part. But that's really the critical part to where you tipped over the little point on the pyramid is when you can, I don't have a better, maybe you have a better phrase to throw it back at them, and say like, hey, just reflect and mirror. That's what you're using. That's even better. Those strategies, the mirroring is what I learned from, there's a book I read, I had her on my show. I can't remember the author, but Train Your Empathy. Huge. Every architect should read it. Train Your Empathy is just a giant, oh my gosh, read that book. That's where I think you really understand how to do discovery and then also take and be empathetic to them and keep those priorities at top of mind and do psychological, it's a psychological training book basically, essentially, and learning book where you then can use those and a lot of phrases come out like mirroring.
That's why I think it's so important, that those discovery conversations are qualitative conversations, not quantitative conversations.
The quantitative takes 5 minutes at the end. It
doesn't take
5
long.
minutes.
Like I fully agree. And by the way, like when you wait towards the end of the conversation to have those quantitative conversations, you have all of the qualitative context that you need from an architect standpoint to have a conversation with someone that might, especially if we're talking about like residential, that might not be as educated or aware of what the realities of these things are. Right. But now you have the full context of understanding that before you get a quantitative approach and then tell someone right away that it's unrealistic to do, this with that, with the quantity that they want. Right. But you've already built up the relationship before then. Usually, I'd say, hey, let's sit down and let's pretend like we have someone in between us and talk about how we'd help them overcome them. We've already started doing this a little bit. Right. So like you've already said, hey, from step one, you need to get better at asking questions, at doing discovery, and you need to go and read some books, some sales processes, do something that's going to help you transition away from having these quantitative conversations, these kind of dry form fills, a series of questions, to having more productive conversations where your goal is to truly understand what it is that they want to do, what it is that they want to feel, and what that top priority is, either from a business or a lifestyle standpoint, right? That's step one. I think what I'm curious on, and maybe this might be a little bit different because I don't necessarily think it's a linear thing where it's like step one, step two, and step three, because there's other components of this depending on if it's like an example where you're talking about where you're mostly doing single family and then all of a sudden you get an opportunity to maybe do multifamily. Someone comes to you with it, right? I think the more common one is you're doing single family and you want to do multifamily, right? Or you want to do retail, right? And you don't have that in your portfolio. Well, what would you say to them? Like what's something that they can do realistically to start having conversations with those people and maybe start win their first project? Everyone wins their first project, right? There's always a first for everyone. How would you address that?
Well, one thing we haven't talked about is money yet. Right? Because I kind of wanted to avoid that with your questions in terms of like, oh, well, should I give them a reduced fee to get in the door? You can do that. It's possible. We've done it before. I'm not going to like pretend that I'm without that sort of sin. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't know the total hit rate. But what I do is I like to just try to get in front of people 100%. And so how do you do that? Right? Builders, Alex and I actually had this discussion yesterday. I go, I'm kind of tired of meeting with builders. We probably met with more builders this last year who have reached out to us. And I think it's because of our online presence and where it's at when you just search for architects in Colorado at this point. We have a lot of people reaching out to us. Plus, it's a little slower down here for folks. with the economy. But they reach out and I go, sure, let's go have lunch. And then they'll take us out to lunch. And I just, what can it hurt? It's back to the Malcolm Gladwell stuff. After a while, you do get exhausted on it. But I went, so it's, if the builders are doing it, once again, are we learning from the other industries? We like to get jealous and compare ourselves and then get mad because, we're not making money like they are. Well, it's like, why are they making more money? Why are they more successful? Why is it easier for them? You maybe drop the ego and do what they're doing. And so why then aren't you, Mr. Architect or Mrs. Architect, reaching out to somebody who does multifamily on the development side or the builder side and going, hey, could I take you out to lunch? We'd just like to, I'm looking to network with people and see if there's some way we could start doing referral work and together and whatever, and go talk with them. Because like, what if it boils down to this? Again, we haven't even talked about money. We haven't even talked about like, now you're going to go, let's say you're going to go pitch a big developer who does all kinds of multifamily. And you say, you're an architect and you go, all I do is single family right now. I'd love to get into multifamily. And, you don't show your cards. You don't say like, even if it meant like, I'll beat a fee from your current architect. What if after that meeting, they find a new piece of land and they go, yeah, I'm going to do like a couple of duplexes. And then they reach out to the other architect or architects that they're using currently and they go, we're too busy. Your timing is almost everything, actually.
Yeah,
so
there's a luck component.
Thank you. That's the word. Exactly. That is what luck is. Luck is putting yourself out there. Luck is like, it's a double-edged sword.
What you're basically saying, luck is not passive. Luck is an active outcome. It's an outcome of being active. It's not an outcome of being
It's an outcome of being active. That's the myth. Yeah. That's the myth we just busted for everybody one more time. Is that like it's... Because my son asked me that too. He's like, wow, I don't know. He's fascinated by all the things Dad does. And he goes like... And my friends too, that are other architects, they'll come down and they'll visit. And we'll show them around the projects and everything. And they go, well, how'd you get the client? And I go, sometimes I really have to dig deep and think of for myself too. I'm like, oh yeah, it was me talking to this person who then referred me to this person who then referred me to this person. And I just kept putting myself out there. Or for example, some of the really, really interesting ones that we've done that we broke down on our show is like when Amazon HQ was going to put out their, they were looking for cities to put the second headquarters. For us, this is kind of a famous story. In 2017, that was going to happen. And Al goes, he goes, I'm going to do a case study. It took him only like a day to do it though, even though we just talked about doing a case study. And he's like, cause we have this dream of doing a skyscraper, just one in our lives, just one. And he goes, I'm going to pretend like Amazon came into Denver and what would it look like? And he did. It's real simple graphics. You can go to our website and see it. And then it was my job to get into the social media comments of Fox 31, Denver 7, all of these news agencies, everything. So I spent one day just blitzing everybody, put out press releases to the Daily Camera and everything. We made up news. And it went viral. And we got on Fox 31. We got on Denver 7. We got in 2 different papers. And we did not get the skyscraper. But we did get the attention of a local developer who said, your guys are kind of what I've been looking for. And I have this plot of land in Denver. I want to build 12 townhomes. We were doing townhomes by that point. And then they got in touch with us and then we did business with them and we did these townhomes for them and stuff like that. Like that is luck by activity for sure.
What's the worst thing that could happen is
exactly
basically what you're saying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
low risk.
I 1000% agree with this, which is that what you said at its core was if you want to branch into another market and you don't have a portfolio for it first, you do not start with a case study. You do not start with doing work internally on yourself. The first thing that you need to do is go out and have conversations with people in that market. That is 1000% the first thing that you have to do, because what you're going to learn is what their challenges are, what their pain points are, where their gaps are at, what gaps you can fill, and whether or not the objections that you think are actually objections are actually the ones that you're going to face, right? Like that's the goal of those conversations. Like, yeah, you're going to go out to lunch, but the questions you should be asking with these people, is less about talking about you. I mean, you can say what you were talking about before, like, hey, yeah, we mostly do single family residential and we want to do some more multifamily residential. Like, you can give them that context. But like the question should be around, are you all working with architects today? Cool. Well, how has that experience gone for you?
What do you like about them? What do you hate about them?
Where do you see the most room for improvement with the architects that you're working with today? Where do you think they're falling short? Right. Get an understand, like have that conversation 5-10 different times with the builders and the developers in those markets that you're going after. You're going to have a really strong sense for exactly how you need to position yourself to do it. And then guess what? It does not matter whether or not you have a picture to show them or not. When you can then go to those conversations and say, look, I've had these conversations with other developers. Here's what I'm hearing. Here's exactly how we address that challenge. Right. Doesn't make sense to work together.
There you go. Like, what a beautiful formula. What a beautiful formula. I'm not sure people were talking about this formula maybe 20 or even 10 years ago in the architecture community in that kind of a way. Like and I hope everybody who's listening goes, it's that easy? Kinda. I mean, really.
It is. Oh yeah. Don't overcomplicate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you have to go and do it. That's a common thing that comes up too.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's this idea that there's a silver bullet or there's some magic way that these things are actually happening. When in reality, so I just had a similar conversation, I think, on a coaching call, but it was someone like talking about like branching into a new market. And I was like, what do you think, by the way, like just out of curiosity, like, what do you think you have to do in order to do this? And they're like, I don't know, like maybe like, maybe I have to find out who's doing the building, like try to figure out like what their email address or their phone number is, or connect with them on LinkedIn, reach out to them, try to get into a meeting and kind of understand what it is that they're doing and do that enough times and then do it. But like, that seems like a lot of work. And I'm like, yeah, that is a lot of work, which is why most people don't do it, by the way. But also, that is the thing that you have to do. It's what you don't want to be true, but is true. Like, you just have to do it, and you have to do it well.
Yeah, yeah.
But most people aren't, because it's too hard. It seems like a lot of work. I'm not sure. I'm a little afraid. I'm hesitant. I don't know what could go wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a low-risk proposition. Lunch is a low-risk proposition. It's really is. The hardest part is just getting them to say yes. That is it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What are the different, like, how should an architect know if they're making progress on this idea? I kind of feel like we have a good idea based on what we were just talking about. Like, let's say you do want to branch into a new market, or you're just trying to win, your first projects without a portfolio. What are the numbers they should be looking at?
Oh, I guess there's a couple different ones. I think there's one that's non-quantitative, and it's maybe qualitative. Is, first of all, number one, probably, are you getting asked to give proposals then after these meetings? What's the percentage rate on that, right? You could quantitative that one. And then let's say you're putting out the proposals. Well, what's your success rate for that, right? On that. If it's above 50% and you're winning them, you're actually doing it wrong, which is maybe shocking to people because your fee is probably too low.
Oh my gosh, you're the only other person that I've ever heard say that. I say the same thing all the time.
Really?
If your win rate is above 50%, you're not charging enough. You're not.
Yeah,
charging enough.
We like to be maybe around like 20 to 30%.
Yeah,
at the maximum.
Yeah,
and so you got to get comfortable with maybe a volume game. If you're getting the volume, if you're getting a lot of inquiries, maybe you're not. Maybe you're not actually though. Maybe you're just getting 3 a month, and which is pretty reasonable actually, like 1 a week type of thing. I would think, sort of thing. So that's I guess the qualitative or the quantitative metric that I would use is like, really, you want to be down in that 20-30%. Like, even in a not so competitive environment right now where there is a push to the bottom again, it just happens every time in the AEC community where people just start it's like they start panic proposaling and they start going downward. And I'm seeing it. Yeah, like I understand where I get to the bottom real quick just to see, right? And because I'll get some people to tell me like, hey, don't tell me the name, just what was the competing bid, where are you at and everything. And then I'll know where the bottom is again. And I'm like, well, we can't do it. And you just got to get comfortable not doing that. And it's up to you to figure out how to maintain your cash flow and all the other kind of fundamental business stuff. Keep it, hopefully you have a diversity of clients that'll keep you going and everything, and understand that it's a wave. It is. It will never end until we fix the money, which who knows whenever that happen. Like, it's never going to happen. Then, you're going to have to ride this wave. And how do you figure out this wave and get comfortable with this wave? and not panic proposal.
I think even more of the responsibility there is getting an understanding of why you were viewed as equal value to everyone else in the bids. This is really important to understand when we talk about like basically commoditized architecture, right? Clients choosing based on lowest fee, basically. What you have to understand is that, like, by definition, in order to be undercut, your value has to be seen as equal to all of the other options. Because if your value isn't seen, then you'd be considered a different opportunity, right? So by definition, if you are being undercut, the client is looking at 5 options. They're saying all 5 options are going to give us the result that we want. Which one is lowest? And by the way, the client would be crazy not to choose the lowest one in that instance. So the question isn't like what was the lowest bid, in my opinion. The question is, why was our value seen as equal to theirs? What can we do to make it clear that not only are we the premium option, but we are the only option that can get them exactly what they want based on those priorities that we learned in the discovery process. Because once you do that, the decision for the client isn't to choose the lowest. It's whether they can get kind of what they want or whether they can get exactly what they want, right?
Yeah.
And at least they're making that differentiation rather than one based on price.
Right. And then understand, like, literally also understanding generally what the client typology is going to be, what their priorities are, right? Single family, we keep talking about that. Multifamily is like, well, at the end, they're trying to make money, and time is money, and there's a lot of money on the line, right? So I'll give everybody else another layup is like, understand their timeline and what they're wanting to do. And then when you can reflect that in how you're going to deliver things, rather than showing them the foo-foo design process, make it much more about numbers for them. These people are crunching numbers in their pro formas. How can you make it about easy digestible numbers when you reflect your proposal back to them and say, like, here's what we're going to do? There was even one I did, actually. This is unorthodox, but I did it recently, and we performed and we did it. And I obviously had to make sure I talked with my team first to see if they were comfortable with this. I'm always trying to do little experiments because I'm an entrepreneur first.
Is this like the pizza gets delivered within 15 minutes or it's free situation?
You got it. I was going to refund money.
Yeah.
I've never done that before. I've never done, not the whole thing, but just part of it.
Sure.
I told them, here's what I'll give. And it was a custom builder who needed it done quickly. They balked at our fee and they wanted to cut it by half. And I go, I can't do that. I don't want to give you guys poor service. We want to meet your deadline. That fee reflects the deadline you need to meet. But the one thing I put over the edge is I go like, just to see if it would help. And it got us a huge fee, and we murdered on the timeline. We actually finished a day ahead of time. And now these guys love us. They're like, well, you guys are the only ones we'll use ever again. And I go, good. I go, great. I mean, I didn't say it, but in my head, I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like we did exactly what we needed. I would maybe never do that again, but I just wanted to see if it worked. And, but it was reflective of their timeline. Like I knew, so I had to put first thing they read about is how we're going to solve their timeline. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's how we're going to execute. They even wanted to take out the structural engineering fee. And I go, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that because we're not be able to. We're going to fail in your timeline. You're going to fail in your timeline.
You're going to fail in your timeline, and you're going to pay more for it because
bingo. I go. You want to go with our? I said you need to hire us. You know, you got to be also sort of be like a little cocky when you're coming back with this kind of stuff. People get off on it. I do. I think it's like fun.
It attracts well, here to your point, like if that's now, I mean, how old's the firm now? 15? Yeah. Okay. So, 15 years in, if what you've discovered is that when you respond in that way, the clients that are akin to that response are good clients for you, then yeah, keep doing it, right? If those are the type of clients that you like to attract, knock yourself out. Keep doing those things. But like use the feedback loop, right? You have to use the feedback loop. So for Lance, it works. For others, it might not, depending on what it is that you want to do. But the point is that you are being conscious and analyzing the results as they're coming in. Because if you're not,
because some people want that confidence.
Yeah,
you're so right, Tyler. Some people don't. That's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay if they're not the right fit for you. Then that is what it is. Like at least there's a reason.
Yeah.
Lance, where can people go to keep following you, learn more about you, learn more about F9, F12, F14, whatever the next one is? That's
all the things. Yeah. They should go to LinkedIn. They should type in my name, Lance, last name Cayko, Cayko. I will connect with anybody, other architects, totally. I am I'm that type of guy. That
You are active. Yeah. That's
yeah,
good.
100%. They should go to f9productions.com. They can sign up for our newsletter. Even if you're another architect, just follow us, see what we're doing. We're always happy to help. And then they should go to insidethefirmpodcast.com. Subscribe to our show. We're on YouTube. We're on all the major platforms. And last and certainly not least, they should check out all my fishing adventures on Fishing with Lance. We're almost up to 100,000 followers, subscribers. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I try to do all the things, and fishing is one of them, and getting paid to do it.
I did not know about the fishing thing until I saw you post about it on LinkedIn, whenever that was, a couple of months ago. And I was like, and I had to go, and I was immediately, by the way, like, I'm already impressed by what you've built on the podcast side, by the way. So everyone, go listen to Inside the Firm on the podcast. Go check out F9 Productions. Type in Lance's name and go follow him on LinkedIn. But when I had no idea that you had like a giant channel outside of architecture, outside of anything, just about fishing on YouTube. And I was like, what the hell? Like this is amazing. I love that you turn what you were already doing into a business opportunity. That is the mark of a true entrepreneur. But yeah, thanks, Lance. Thanks so much for joining us here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, buddy.
All right, Growth Detect, that is a wrap on this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy the podcast, then please take 30 seconds to share a review and tell me your favorite part so that I can keep making it better for you. And hey, if you want to work with me directly to increase your fees and start winning the biggest projects of your career, then send me an email at hello@growthdetect.com with the word grow. That is it. Just email me the word grow at hello@growthdetect.com and I will get you sorted out. All right, I'll see you next time, friends.